This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, and the playoffs are here in the Cup Series. Woody Kane alongside Joey Meyer. Finally, the regular season is done. Kyle Busch, the regular season champion, even though that was determined a week ago at Darlington. Kevin Harvick wins again. That means it is, if you're watching on a Monday, a Bloomin' Monday. Go by Outback Steakhouse and get a free Bloomin' Onion. Little Joey is excited. He's happy. The playoffs are here, and what a wild weekend we saw at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Several hard crashes and some Xfinity drivers almost getting into a fight and texting that they were, and nothing really happened.
Yeah. So 3 of the last 7 races were won by the same guy, who in the first 19 races didn't win any. And they were wondering, where's Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers? They've lost their touch. No, they're fine. They
were always fast through all that.
We've said it a number of times on this show right here. Every Monday morning we show up. The one thing that they didn't have a problem with was going fast.
And that's kind of a requirement if you're going to be competitive.
And everything else was fixable. Everything else you could identify. When you don't have speed, you don't know if it's a spring or a shock or a motor or a driver or an engine. You don't know. You're kind of pointing fingers, right? But when your car's fast and you can identify a mistake or a lack of execution, that's a home run. And clearly those guys winning the last 3 of 7 could easily have won the last 4 of 10, the last 5 of 12. Those guys have been fast. How about Bubba Wallace?
Wasn't that spectacular to see them legitimately run third?
And that's the thing. We saw earlier in this year the 77 car won a race at Daytona, rain out. Really cool story for those guys.
That was circumstances.
Exactly. But for Darrell Bubba Wallace and the 43 guys, realistically a underfunded team. They're not one of the big powerhouses that we've come to learn with the Gibbs and Hendrick and the Penske guys. But he ran 3rd and 2nd and 4th.
They were fast in the first practice session.
Exactly right. It was really good. And he showed exactly why Richard Petty Motorsports has put him behind that car. He had a good car all weekend. He qualified relatively well, but really raced well all afternoon.
And overcame a pit road problem to fight his way back up there.
Yeah,
that could have sunk them easily.
Exactly. That was one of those things at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the very first pit stop, we saw some cars down. And ironically enough, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, that Darrell actually may have not caused it, but triggered the mayhem behind him by kind of overshooting his pit box, and you got to turn in tight and stop. And it's really an accordion effect that wadded up, 5 or 6, 7 cars.
Yeah.
But Indianapolis Motor Speedway showed yesterday the difficulty it is to get around. We saw multiple wrecks, and not just single car, I lost my balance and I'm going to spin out by myself. Multiple big ones. And there were some vicious wrecks with
at a place we haven't really seen that much. Yeah.
But what it shows is with this package, guys have to be meaner and angrier on these restarts than they've ever had to be. When you're on the gas and you've already got it floored and you're already in 4th gear and you're accelerating to the best of your ability, the only thing you can do is screw your neighbor. Take and steal as much from him as possible to get by him. Because if he gets by you and he's wide open and you're wide open, that's all you can do.
The math is not in your favor
exactly
at that point.
That's all you can do. So we saw a lot of those guys simply stealing and beating their neighbors as hard as they could on these restarts. And that's why a lot of these cars got together.
So is Kyle Busch right then? You can't pass with this package? Is he right? He's been saying it almost all year.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Whenever you give something more to a race car, and then following a race car takes that away, i.e. aero, when we have downforce. Whenever you have a car that has a lot of downforce, but then getting in behind a car takes it away, it's a bigger penalty. If no car had any downforce, well, then getting in behind a car is no penalty. That makes sense?
Yep.
But now you've given a lot of downforce and you get in behind, it's a larger penalty. We're running around. This is the first time in a long time forever, that a Cup car ran around in qualifying wide open. The car had so much drag, so much downforce.
And with new tires, you didn't have to worry about that.
You ran around wide open. If you're trying to do restarts that way and you're wide open and the guy next to you is wide open, the only thing you can do is steal from him. And that means trying to get him to get out of the gas, trying to side draft him, trying to give him the disadvantage. And that's why these cars were so close. Multiple wrecks were caused, if we look at guys side by side trying to just rub the door decals off of them and end up getting that inside car loose. And after that, it's essentially a big one that's happening. And most of the time, we saw it off of turn 2 early in a run because realistically, down in 3 and 4, guys are kind of spread out already. We're already wide open. The momentum's going.
When you're still crowded, you mean? Yeah,
exactly.
They're still crowded together.
Most of the events took place over on the, I would say, the south end of the track over in turns 1 and 2. And it was really just guys having to be mean. To that you come to a 4-way stop, there's always that guy that just drives through.
But having to make your moves on restarts isn't new.
No.
That's where a lot of the guys have been saying for a few years now that you have to really take advantage of restarts.
Well, and the thing about Indianapolis Motor Speedway, with it being so flat, it's not conducive to being too wide to begin with. The guy on the outside lane really has the disadvantage because he's taking a longer way around the track, right?
Yeah.
And that guy on the bottom doesn't want to lift because he's going to try to get as much as he can. It provided some really good excitement if you're looking from a fan standpoint. But we tore up a lot of race cars, and at the end of the day, Kevin Harvick's guys ran up front, qualified on the pole, ran up front all day long, and came home the victors. Kudos to them.
He did win the race. He is in the playoffs solidly, as we mentioned earlier. 3 wins on the season. Let's hear what he had to say after the race.
We've definitely made some strides in getting where we closer to where we want to be. I think we still have some things that we have to work on at certain styles of racetracks, but this is survive and advance, and you don't necessarily have to have the fastest car. We had the fastest car today, maybe not the best handling car, but we survived. And really a day like today is a lot like how you're going to have to approach every race in the playoffs, and it's really about the details of how you go through practice and how you start the race, and what you do when things are wrong and what you do when things are right, and it's just covering those details, and it's a 1 week at a time grind. I don't think today's race sends a message to anybody other than we are doing a good job over the last few months of on the days when we have cars that are capable of winning. We've been getting good finishes out of them and been to victory lane a few times over the last 3 months. So that's the most important thing is that, I think for us, we have a lot of confidence in each other and the things that we're doing right now. And sometimes that's more important than fast cars.
Eliminating the mistakes, they go to victory lane, and they do roll into the playoffs with some momentum.
Yeah, momentum, again, and we mentioned it multiple times. When you have it, it's cool. When you don't have it, you're like, it doesn't mean anything. So right now, those guys clearly have the momentum. And when we use the word momentum, you could almost substitute it for confidence.
Yeah.
You're not pointing fingers. You're not searching for answers. You're continually doing what you've been doing because it's been successful. And that's where that momentum word kind of gets used / confidence is really the more important thing. You know what you're doing. Your pit crew, 26 races into the season, their routine has been established because clearly up to that point, they've been making mistakes on pit road. So now they've got those things worked out. The strategies worked out. The evolution of this car 26 races in has worked out. So now we know there's no searching. Now it's a matter of taking what we have and still making it better for these last 10 races.
All right, the playoffs are set to begin at Las Vegas Motor Speedway coming up this weekend. It'll also be the end of the first round in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series playoffs. The Xfinity guys, one more race to go before their playoff field is set. We'll talk about all that still ahead on MRN Out Loud.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. Visit the NASCAR Hall of Fame and see how Petty, Earnhardt, and hundreds of other NASCAR legends became heroes. Watch their most electrifying moments, experience realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
At Freightliner, innovation is at their core. In fact, Freightliner was created nearly 80 years ago out of a need for something new in trucking. Today, that innovation still drives them as they constantly work to make their industry-leading trucks safer, more dependable, and even more efficient. All the things that make a smart business decision a winning business decision, no matter what you may haul. Learn more about Freightliner on highway trucks at Freightliner.com. Freightliner, run smart.
No, I know what we had. I mean, we had lightning in a bottle. I mean, we had 15 out of 17 years or 14 out of 17 years that were just out of this world. And we had a great run. There is no doubt about it. But unfortunately, just where our relationship went in the final couple of years, we weren't bringing the best out of one another. And that's why we had to, had to change paths. I still think Chad Canales is the best crew chief to ever walk through the garage area. I do. I am his biggest fan and proponent, and I think William is a great student for him to teach and evolve as a driver. So I'm happy for them. Of course I want to beat him. Of course I want to outrun him. But that's Chad Canales, and he knows what he is doing, and he's developing William at a rapid rate, and they're doing a great job. What I have learned through this 2 or 3 year drought in difficult time is just how important the team is. And I've known it, I've lived it, and I've been the beneficiary of some amazing teams. And I just didn't realize how fragile it was until I got involved and had to start building that and help select the right people to put in place to build that team. It's been an interesting journey, and I've through it all, I've learned a ton. I mean, I really have, and I think we're in a spot now that everybody can see where the hard work has gone, and we're starting to show up and perform.
Jimmy Johnson talking about the parting of ways with he and Chad Canales in the offseason. Now, for the first time in the modern era, if you will, of the chase and the playoffs, Jimmy Johnson, a 7-time champ, will not be a part of it. He's working with Cliff Daniels now as engineer, and those guys really do seem to click together, and they were a very fast car before the thing that you mentioned earlier happened. A car on the outside of him simply pulled him around. No contact, that just the air pulled him around.
Ironically enough, the 24 car with Chad Canales and those guys out there racing hard for a position on an initial restart. A record that realistically probably is going to be very difficult to attain again. The run he had from the first year of the initial chase through the modifications all the way with now we have the playoff system. It's his first year not being in that top 16 or that last 10. Used to be 10 cars, and then we expanded to 12 and now 16. But him and Chad Canales had a record of those 7 championships besides Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty. That's going to be tough to attain. The 5 in a row was unbelievable.
Right. I don't think anybody will ever do that again.
I mean, that's just amazing to see that. And again, knowing the drivers that he beat. Okay, so we could see 5 championships in a row in the Truck Series. If you were over there dominating, the field is a little bit thinner. But you're talking about in the heart, in the meat of the industry when he won those 5 against some really good teams.
When the sport was in its heyday.
Exactly right. But on the other end of that spectrum, you had drivers that were trying to get in for the very first time, and guys were getting in maybe the second or third time, and we were really looking forward to Daniel Suarez, coming from that the switch from Stewart-Haas over to Stewart-Haas is what I'm saying, and trying to get his way into the first time, and just had a problem early in the race.
4 points. He missed it by 4 points, and Ryan Newman is the guy who squeaks in at the very end. He and Clint Boyer tied. You mentioned William Byron, 13th seed for him. Kyle Busch, the top seed. Denny Hamlin, second. Martin Truex Jr., third. What do those guys have in common?
Yeah, out of the same. They run out of the same house. Yeah, the same little shop over here in Huntersville.
Yeah.
So
they've got it really going on heading into the playoffs. Joey Logano, the 4th seed. Kevin Harvick, the 5th seed, as we get set to head to Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend and open the playoffs. Go back to something Kevin Harvick said there a moment ago about survive and advance, and I've always liked that phrase. We hear it in association with the NCAA basketball tournament, and it's kind of the way that we have to approach these playoffs on the Cup side in particular. I've heard more than one guy say that or a variation of that. It's not go out like gangbusters, particularly in the early rounds. It's don't do anything dumb to knock yourself out. Somebody is going to have some trouble. Somebody will not advance because of something that happens to them, something circumstantial.
Yeah, interesting. We have 10 races left, but there's only one race where you can win the championship. It's the last one. You have to get there first. Now, you can make such critical mistakes or catastrophic failures in your execution that you won't get to Homestead. But once you get outside and you're not there, there's nothing you can do to get back in. And so that's what they're looking to do. This first 3 race segment, we go Vegas, and that's Richmond, and then the Roval. You don't want to have anything that knocks you out and not move on to the last. It's
not necessarily dominate the field.
Exactly.
It's don't do anything bad.
Exactly right, because it's hard to make up with these 16 drivers. Everybody has that same mentality. So it's not like everybody else is throwing haymakers and just a matter of where the jacks fall on the ground and okay, I'm going to be fine. If you're making mistakes and others aren't, it's hard to leapfrog them once you made your mistake.
Right, and a guy like Kyle Busch, who wins the regular season championship and gets the extra bonus points, he rolls into the playoffs 15 points ahead of second place because he won the regular season championship. That's a guy that's going to be hard to derail in that first segment. I mean, he could theoretically have 2, maybe even 3 not great races and still advance just on the points cushion that he's built up if you look at the playoff points and all that he's accumulated during the regular season.
He's one of the few drivers that could make a mistake in this first round and not be concerned because he has that cushion. 2 years ago when Martin Truex Jr. essentially had a 50-point cushion going into the playoffs, he just needed to show up to the racetrack and do whatever he wanted to do, and he was getting home.
Just ride around, and he was fine.
The last 2 years, we had the big 3. We have really nobody sitting on top of each other from a big 3 or big 2 or big 4 standpoint. So everybody has to be on their mind their P's and Q's, man, not make the mistakes to take themselves out. Again, once you get out, you can't get back in.
It's tough. I was talking with Kyle Larson at Darlington, and he said once you have that bad racing around, you pretty much know you almost have to win to keep advancing.
Exactly.
Now, as far as that playoff mentality goes, we chatted with Brad Keselowski about that or heard what he said. Let's take a look at that.
It's a tough stretch. It's meant to be tough. But it's really intentionally designed to be tough, quite honestly. And it's part of the like I said, the responsibility of having a great team to drive for, and having an opportunity to leave a mark on a sport that's been around for decades and will be around for decades after I'm gone. So that's a real special time in anyone's life, and I think I just want to make the most of it.
3 wins on the season for Brad. He comes in as the 6th seed in the playoffs, and he and his teammate Joey Logano in pretty good shape as we roll into the first round here. As you mentioned, Vegas, Richmond, and the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway. One other point about Brad, though, just a violent crash that he had at Indianapolis. Do you think we might see something changed at that point where he wrecked in the track before we go back?
It absolutely astounds me how we as a series or an industry can roll around a 2-mile or a 1.5-mile track or a 2.66 at Talladega track and inevitably spin out and find the 10-foot area around 2.6. That's the worst area to hit, and we find it.
What are the odds? But it happens.
Right, it happens more. We can see
over and over
again. And clearly that position on the track. Now, the track's idea was, look, we had a spot there. It was well protected. You got out of your car unhurt.
There were tons of tires there and all that.
So, and the Speedway's mentality was, we had an area there, but we did a good job of protecting it, and rightfully so. Brad was not hurt. It was a vicious wreck between the tire barriers and the safety of the car.
Poured out of the car, essentially, because it was up at an angle, and he kind of,
just get me out of this thing.
It was like an escape hatch type move.
But at this speeds that we're going, because we're running so wide open, you don't have the opportunity to lift until after the wreck, and you had he hit the wall and really turned left and never slowed down.
Yeah,
because the car was never sitting on its tires going straight. He was just scrubbing not having any control and going to that area. So it'll be interesting to see. The track has reached out to him. He wanted to make a point with the IndyCar drivers. And again, that track isn't just a oval anymore. It's got a road course, and that's portion of the road course that the cars come out on the backstretch, and that's why that opening is there.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they do address it or attack the safety of it. But realistically, Brad wasn't hurt. So again, kudos to the Speedway, because in the past we've seen Jeff Gordon hit those inside walls that weren't protected.
Yeah, and let's don't forget the car safety itself,
exactly,
because that's a factor in addition.
Yeah, but it was, golly, was it violent. It was an amazing incident. But again, it looked, and Brad actually said, I said, man, because he wrecked years ago at California and took a helicopter ride to the hospital. I said, that was spectacular. This one looked worse. He goes, nah, it wasn't worse. It just looked that way. So good for him.
And Landon Castle with a violent crash as well. Some big crashes on the Xfinity side. We'll talk about them in a moment as their regular season finale comes up. Why do you think we saw so many of those harder crashes than we've seen in years past at Indy?
Well, because, again, you're wide open, and your corner speeds, simply because of the amount of downforce we have, we are entering the corner and going through the corner at a much faster speed than we were in the past. We used to have faster straightaway speeds and slower corner speeds. Now we've gotten slower straightaway speeds and faster corner speeds. And it's actually one of the concerns that Goodyear has to work on, because our loads on these tires are higher. Even though the overall speed is down, our corner speeds and our entry speeds are a little bit higher.
So as we go through these first three races in the playoffs, Las Vegas, Richmond, and the Roval at Charlotte, you look toward the back of that field and you see guys from like, say 9th, 8th, 9th on back. Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Eric Jones, Ryan Blaney. There you see the field. William Byron, Eric Almirola, Clint Boyer, Ryan Newman. Those guys. Who is a guy who can kind of pop out of that group and maybe be a dark horse?
Well, without a caution yesterday, the one person that comes to mind is over on the right side of that screen. That's the number 12 of Ryan Blaney. They are simply running really well over at the Team Penske camp, but they simply can't finish the deal, right?
Yeah.
That's one of those.
Similar to what we talked about with Kevin Harvick earlier.
Earlier in the year, Kevin Harvick was having the same issue. But over on that right side, you've seen the elevation of William Byron. You've seen Eric Jones winning a week ago. Any one of those guys could really jump to the forefront. But again, it's going to be hard to leapfrog 4 or 5 really good guys. Like, who can't win a race? Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Truex, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. They've all won multiple races this year. That's going to be hard to leapfrog and get over them. So you're not looking to try to beat all them guys right now. You just don't want to be at the bottom of that list at the end of this first stage.
4 guys will be eliminated after those first 3 races. Do those tracks favor any driver or drivers in particular with Vegas, Richmond, and the Roval?
You know, I think when you go to Vegas, if you can be associated with a Gibbs car, and that's the Eric Jones mentality over there. He was over on the right side of that screen, of the points section. I think he really looks promising. But it's still, I'm actually going to say the only person I see that's at a deficit, it'd be easier to say, would be like a Ryan Newman. That Roush guys, you haven't seen the speed from them to say we're going to go out and advance by winning, but he's such a blue-collar journeyman worker.
Just consistent.
He's exactly right.
Steady.
Exactly, and no mistakes. Those guys don't tear up a bunch of race cars, and they just, like, at the end of the day, you're like, Newman, how did he come from? How did he finish 9th? How did he finish 7th? How did he finish 12th? And he'll just blue-collar you to death. So that's the only the deficit isn't because of Ryan Newman, but it's really about the support cast around him.
All right, another time out here on MRN Out Loud. We've still got some Xfinity Series action to talk about as they face their regular season finale at Las Vegas, and it's the elimination race in the playoffs for the Gander Outdoors Truck Series. Brett Moffitt has won the first 2. We'll talk about that next.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires.
Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away one set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules Tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
Before you know it, the 2019 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup champ will be crowned in Miami.
Here comes Logano on the high side.
Be there to witness Ford Championship Weekend, November 15th through the 17th at Homestead Miami Speedway.
And he will win the war in South Florida.
3 days, 3 races, 3 NASCAR champions. Get your tickets now by calling 866-409-7223. That's 866-409-RACE or go to homesteadmiamispeedway.com. We're back on the Onions and Tires show. Woody Kane alongside Joey Meyer. You can get your free Bloomin' Onion, Bloomin' Monday, if you head out to Outback Steakhouse because a win means a top 10 finish for Kevin Harvick. However, you can win other stuff.
You want black rings that go on your car that are expensive.
They are.
We call them tires.
Yes, we do.
And we give them away. One set a month. Every month, a free set of tires, but you have to register.
How do you do it?
If you were listening on the commercial, we got to give you a preview. But if you go to www, stands for World Wide Web, www.herculestire.com with a / and MRN, it's that simple. You register.
Sign up.
Once a month, they draw a name. Anybody randomly can get a set of free tires.
And it could be you.
Then
so make sure you go
to Hercules Tires,
and sign up and participate in that. All right, let's talk a little bit of truck racing because they had the first 2 races of their playoff run. Brett Moffitt, defending series champ with a new team this year, goes out and wins Bristol, then goes out and wins the road course in Canada, now facing Las Vegas. He's already locked into the next round, but 2 guys are going to be eliminated here after Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I'm blown away that simply you talk about a guy that's a staple of the truck series, but Johnny Sauter they've been tripping over themselves and with the issue of not being able to identify why. You know, they're not like in the Kevin Harvick mentality of earlier and say our trucks have been stupid fast and we're just tripping over our feet on pit road.
Yeah.
It's just been an anomaly of years for Johnny Sauter. Because you just him and Matt Crafton are realistically like the new Ron Hornaday and Mike Skinner. They were in that series and they're representing the series and they're always going to be in the top 2 or 3 battling for positions. Johnny simply hasn't had the year that he's wanted to over there back in the Thor Sport Car.
Well, remember he had all that stuff in the middle part of the season where he got tangled up with Austin Hill and then wound up being suspended for a race.
Yeah.
He's only 2 points out, chasing his teammate Grant Enfinger to advance. Tyler Ankrum in the 8th spot, and he's some 14 points back. But 2 guys will not advance after Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and you have to look at the usual suspects. Brett Moffitt has already won 2. Ross Chastain has been very fast. Stuart Friesen up into the 3rd spot in the standings, and Matt Crafton, another veteran who has a really good record over history, not necessarily this year on the 1.5-mile tracks, and Austin Hill's come on of late as well.
Yeah, they need to go to Vegas, every driver you just mentioned, and just have a good race. We don't need to put a cape on and become Superman. The driver that's having the most fun so far is realistically 10 races ago wasn't even collecting points in the series. Ross Chastain. Always got a smile on his face, always realistically, I don't want to say flipping the series the bird, if you will, but really has no concern over who cares what about what he's doing. Like he doesn't, if he upsets anybody or upsets everybody, he's happy about it because that's what got him here.
Busting up watermelons, having a big time.
Driving hard and having those Nice Motorsports guys really give him really fast trucks.
They do have the alliance with GMS,
but he's beating those guys.
Right.
He's beating guys that realistically in the past have been considered better drivers, and now he's beating them in their own equipment. So kudos to those guys. That's the one driver I hope can make Homestead to put on the show there because, again, that kind of track favors his driving style.
But the other guys, as we mentioned, Johnny Sauter only 2 points out. This thing is still wide open. One of the guys could win that we don't expect. One of the guys could beat somebody by, 3 spots and advance. That's all it takes at this point. The margin is so close at the back end of the field. That's all it takes.
In truck racing at Vegas, again, is a wide open scenario. These guys are going to be, it's almost like a mini Daytona / Talladega. It's a full-on draft, wide open for most of the corners. And what the thing that offers at Vegas is you can go from the very bottom all the way to the top to try to get the best run possible. So if your truck's not handling on the bottom lane, you can go to the middle or top and figure out where it is. But you're going to be wide open for most of that mile and a half. And it produces one of the best races of the weekend.
We will have, by the way, here on the Motor Racing Network, the World of Westgate 200. Gander Outdoors Truck Series playoff race number 3, 8:30 this coming Friday, and it is Friday the 13th. Are you superstitious?
No,
Or are you just stitious?
It'll be a full moon. Yeah, I'm not really superstitious, right?
Just stitious.
I'm
Okay.
a little stitious.
That makes all the difference as we go out there for a triple header weekend. It's going to be interesting to see. You've got a lot of team trucks running together in the truck series there, with Stuart Friesen also having the affiliation with GMS. Then you've got the Thor Sport guys with Crafton, Enfinger, and Johnny Sauter up in the standings.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to the next 3 races in the trucks. They don't go consecutively, but they're the Vegas race, which will be a cutoff. Then you got Talladega, which who knows?
It's just crazy.
And then on the complete opposite end of Talladega is Martinsville.
Yeah,
and it's like a slow motion Talladega, if you will, because there'd be as much carnage at Martinsville as at Talladega will produce. But the next 3 races obviously give you a really good idea. It's going to really dwindle the field down and then really put the pressure on whoever goes to Phoenix to try to make that last cut of the Final Four for Homestead. So they have a really good set of races coming up that will provide a lot of good opportunities for the good teams as long as they don't make mistakes.
And anything can still happen for sure. We've seen a lot of that in the truck series so far this season. Set for another time out here on MRN Out Loud. We'll talk about some Xfinity racing and what we can expect there when we come back.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. This is our house, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and it's packed full of classic and present-day cars, including Petty's, Earnhardt's, and Waltrip's, as well as interactive experiences, realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
Winged Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham, and Ashley Stremme. Your destination for all things winged sprint cars. Each Saturday at 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. on MAV TV. Live at noon on wingednation.com and Facebook Live. Join us for in-depth conversations with drivers and personalities that make up the greatest dirt racing on earth. The Winged Nation Preview Podcast each Thursday previews the upcoming weekend. Winged Nation, winged sprint car talk covering dirt tracks all across America.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse, where if you're with us on a Monday, you can go by Outback Steakhouse and get a free blue and onion because of a top 10 finish by Kevin Hart.
This would have been almost a 3-strike kind of weekend. You can get a free blue and onion, you can register for free tires, and you could have gone to Applebee's and seen a fight.
You could have. What in the world happened? We're going to talk a little more Xfinity racing in a minute. But what happened? We see all this back and forth between Michael Annett and Mike Harmon. Next thing you know, there may be a fight at a restaurant.
That's spectacular.
What happened?
Yeah, that's amazing. Well,
how did this get so out of hand?
Clearly, they had an on-track incident. And Mike Harmon is in a lower funded team. Michael Annett is over at Junior Motorsports and has won a race earlier in the year and has moved on to the first round of the playoffs. And they got together. And for whatever reason, again, Mike Harmon is just trying to make a living, man. He's just out there with his own team. It's MHR, Mike Harmon Racing. And they got in each other's way, and it ripped up Michael Annett's car. And Michael Annett voiced his displeasure.
As drivers do.
As drivers do. And I think he kind of went overboard. And Mike Harmon said, well, and Mike Harmon's a heftier guy. Michael Annett's not. And that would be an interesting
contest.
Tussle, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That'd be an interesting tussle because you have the youth and enthusiasm of Michael Annett, and you have the heft of Michael Harmon, and I'm not sure that one wouldn't really outdo the other one.
And the next thing you know, it's blown up on social media.
Yeah.
And here we go. And people are going, are they really going to Applebee's? What's going on?
Mike Harmon was at Applebee's and chose to Curtis. I thought it was nice of him to invite him over to Applebee's.
I don't think he was inviting him for anything pleasant.
They were going to stand in line at the buffet and chat a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
it did not happen.
It's the first time I've ever seen Applebee's involved with an invitation to kick my butt.
Yeah, it was certainly unique. Back on the track, meanwhile, Kyle Busch wins again at Indy. He will not be able to race as many in the Xfinity Series next year as he did this year. They're cutting them back, the Cup guys back, and he, again, voiced his displeasure about that decision. But I can understand both sides of the argument there, but be that as it may, Justin Allgaier comes home second, still looking for that first victory of the season, did pick up a stage win, but has anything changed the dynamic from what we've been talking about all season? The big three and who else is going to be in that group?
You know, Justin Allgaier was on the bumper of Kyle Busch that entire last lap. That was really an amazing finish with, again, cars that were very equally done. Kyle Busch came from the back earlier from the strategy that he played and was able to stay out front and had the lead. And Justin simply couldn't get by him. And I think that's what we looked for from Justin. Even though he didn't win a race, that's the race.
Or hasn't, yeah.
Hasn't won. Yeah, he didn't, he didn't win that race, right?
Yeah.
And hasn't won this year. But we've been talking about it, me personally, expecting him to be in contention the whole time. And that's
not like they've been running around in the back.
Exactly.
I mean, let's be honest.
And again, that's one of those teams like the Kevin Harvick, Rodney Childress issue of the first 19 races of this year. Speed wasn't the problem. It was everything else that you can go back and identify. Whether it was the car number was put on wrong, to a pit road issue, to whatever.
It was this here, it was that there, it was something else at the other track.
Even though he didn't win on Saturday, that performance, and when we talk about momentum, again, it gives them the confidence to quit pointing and go, hey, we can do this. And that's the guy I'm still saying, he's going to be contend with those other big three guys that we've seen perform all year.
Austin Cindric, another guy to keep an eye on as he's kind of crept up the board here late in the season with a couple of road course victories, and they do have the Roval coming up where he should be very good again.
Foaming at the mouth for the Roval, foaming at the mouth. 3 road courses earlier, he could have won easily. Won the 2. Those were good.
Could have won all 3.
Could have won all 3. Was in contention and could have really. So that Roval is the one he's looking to capitalize on, that one win to be able to get him to the next next round of the playoffs.
To go to the next round. Now, as they roll into Las Vegas Motor Speedway, what kind of an event can we expect there? That track surface is getting more worn every single day, it seems like, and now it's become a track where you have to pay more and more attention to your tires.
Well, and not only that, but it offers up, just like the Truck Series, not near as much wide open throttle, but realistically the track does open up very wide for that series as well, and it produces really good racing because we talked earlier, when a car is following a car, you have these guys following each other. This guy can't run as fast as this guy. But if I can move around the track, and
I love your car illustrations, by the way.
But if I can move around, then this guy's not penalizing this guy by arrow, and that's what Las Vegas offers, is the simple fact that I can move away from the penalty and be able to get by you if I have an equal or better car.
But you can't do that at a place like Indianapolis because you've pretty much got to be down low.
Right, you have to be, and plus they don't have Joey and little Herc here to help him out.
To make it happen. And now, see, he just fainted on you there as we move to the end of the regular season in the Xfinity Series. Not much drama at the back of the pack there. Ryan Sieg in that 12th spot, the final spot that will advance and make the postseason. Yep. And he's got a 100-and-some point lead over the next guy in line, Gray Galding.
Yeah, the only thing that would have to happen is one of those guys outside of the top 12 would pull off a miracle or some kind of win. Again, nothing against their talents. Jeremy Clemens, a past winner. We got Brandon Brown, Ray Black Jr., Josh Williams, Garrett Smithley in those cars. I have a tier system, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show, but they're a tier 3 team, and it's difficult to jump right into tier 1 and be contending for a win. They're solidly in tier 3. Their hopes are to gain and become a tier 2 team.
Yeah,
and that's what their goals are. Right. We're looking for the Justin Allgaiers of the world that are solidly tier 2. They need to take that step to become the tier 1. So I think the top 12 with Ryan Sieg holding down that 12th spot is pretty comfortable.
Yeah, he can't be caught from behind at this point. We have to have a new winner, as you say, to knock a guy like that out of contention. All right, that's where we're going to head this weekend, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, to open the Cup Series playoffs. The 16 drivers will kick things off out in Sin City, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Don't forget, a big week coming up here on the Motor Racing Network. NASCAR Live comes your way Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Mike Bagley is your host. A lot of playoff talk coming up on that show as well. And then we get back in action here on the Motor Racing Network Friday the 13th. The World of Westgate 200, third playoff race in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series, comes your way Friday night, 8:30. I'm Woody. He's Joey. See you right here next week.